So I'll tell you how we're going to go forward this morning. I've just brought one music video, and I think it's a beautiful one. It's a bit on the longish side, so I'm hoping you can use it as a bit of an opening prayer meditation. And it's by the band, or the Michael Gungor, and it's just the band in concert doing a song that we've done here many times before. And I think that this band got to this place where they were trying to write worship songs that would make sense to anybody. And that's what last week I did. I sang a song of Zoe's, which you intentionally wrote with that idea. How do we make worship songs that anybody could sing? And then I wrote one this weekend, and so we're going to do Zoe's one over again and my new one too, but at the end of the service. So the first one is, I hope it's our opening meditation. So Lord, be with us. We open our hearts to light, to love, to meaning, to compassion, to justice, to care. We love you, Lord. Amen. It looks like they had fun. Okay, so this is sort of a different teaching time. I had my last major class yesterday, as I was saying to some of you, and my brain was frizzled, so I thought I wouldn't make a PowerPoint or anything for church. I'd just come and hum for about 20 minutes. No, I just brought some notes from things that I've been really thinking about, and so I thought what I'd do is just share notes, and then at any point, I just love everybody's interactions and just some ideas. So this is the first thing. I began my course at the university this last January by really focusing on Elaine Pagels. Very interesting person, and she's a professor at Princeton University. She's won a National Humanities Award. She's considered a national treasure in some ways. And she's an expert on the Nag Hammadi texts, which were found in 1945. And they were found in 1945 because in the 4th century, in a monastery, near a monastery in Egypt, in a cave, some monks hid some scrolls. And they hid the scrolls because an order had come out from the bishop, who was Athanasius, saying that all texts which were not considered the canonical texts needed to be burned or destroyed. And so the monks didn't, libraries were precious. It took so much work to make a scroll. And so these were codices, and what they did was somebody put them in a huge jar. There's about 50 different books. The books are mostly quite small. They're all available to read online these days for free. But they were made, and they were at first they were just called the Gnostic Gospels. And Elaine Pagels was doing a PhD at Harvard in religion. So fascinating, because the first year that she asked to get in, they said, we would normally accept someone with your qualifications, but you're a woman, and we've only ever had one woman in the program, and she didn't finish. So we think that if you still are interested next year, we'll let you in. I mean, I'm just so sorry, but it's beyond belief, but it's important to say these things. And anyway, she does just do the program, and she didn't expect to like anything like the Gnostic Gospels, because by this time she'd read Irenaeus and other church fathers who said that these things were awful. So she assumed that they'd be awful, but what she found was that they had beautiful ideas in them, and she started to write about them. And so she wrote a book that's just called the Gnostic Gospels. I think it was written in like 1975, and it became a classic. And so she actually won a Genius Award for it, that she didn't know even existed. Somebody phoned her and said, we've awarded you the Genius Award, and it means that we will pay for all of your living expenses for the next 5 years. Oh. And this was actually really important, because she and her husband, who was a physicist, a brilliant physicist, had a little boy who had a heart defect, and he died at about 5 years old. And they walked through the last few years, their whole last few years of their life were just caring for him. And he said some of the most profound and beautiful things Like at one point in the park, he talked to them about when he wouldn't be with them next year, you know, and at another point, he said that he was the king of the dragons, and then he said, but there's the queen of the dragons too, and they said, what's her name? And he said, Sarah. And a year after, they had actually begun an adoption process, and they adopted a little girl, and they found out her name was Sarah. So there were these little beautiful things that happened, which demonstrated, I think, and she believes, the love of God in the midst of tremendous tragedy. So recently, she wrote a book which is not primarily about this scholarly work that she did. It's called Why Religion, in 2018, and I love it. I already, Jess has already read it too. I thought it was beautiful, and
Yes,
Sally, you read it too?
I liked it.
Big claim.
Because I was saying, I think you'll like this book. Because you know, a lot of the books that I read, people don't like. So anyway, I remember saying, I think you'll like this. So anyway, and a year and a half after their son died, her husband died in a terrible accident. He was hiking in Colorado where they had a summer place, and he fell. The rock probably gave way. So he fell like 300 feet or something. I can't quite remember, but anyway, so she said the first one was like all she could take, but then her husband is gone too. So the Why Religion book is it's trying to wrestle with, you know, here's a person who finds more life in heterodox ideas, more life in the supposed Gnostic Gospels, though they probably all don't fit in that category. But she finds more life in these than she does in the traditional. And there's a beautiful book that she wrote about 2003 called Beyond Belief, The Secret Gospel of Thomas, where she compares the Gospel of John with the Gospel of Thomas. And I love this book, and I took careful notes on it. And I'm just going to try and read a little bit in the red. So she starts out the book by saying, what is it about Christian tradition that we love, and what is it that we cannot love? John, can you just move it on a bit? I'll tell you where to stop. If you just go slowly, keep going, till you get to red. This is good. The gospel narrative is a retelling of the Exodus story in a way that allows the participant to be baptized in the Jordan as Jesus was, and to move toward Eucharist as a ritual of common deliverance and hope, exemplified in the death and resurrection of Jesus. This then is what I dimly recognize. She's talking about coming back to church. She's coming back to church after all this pain. And she's in a little church in New York, and it's an Episcopal church. And she realizes that she feels at home. She realizes that it's healing her to be there. She's standing in the doorway. There's something so beautiful about being there. And she's thinking, you know, I'm a scholar of all these things, and I'm a scholar sort of against traditional Christian interpretation. But here she is, she goes, this then is what I dimly recognized as I stood in the doorway of the Church of the Heavenly Rest. The drama being played out there spoke to my condition, as it has to that of millions of people throughout the ages, because it simultaneously acknowledges the reality of fear, grief, and death, while paradoxically nurturing hope. Mm-hmm. And she says, when we come to church, we're entering into the ritual. We're entering the drama with all the points of sadness and reality and evil and hope and life and love. And somehow when we walk into it, we're in it all. Isn't that kind of beautiful? And it makes me have more honor for ritual-based services, I think. Yeah. Keep going. This is it. The Church of the Heavenly Rest helped me to realize much that I love about religious tradition, and Christianity in particular, including how powerfully these may affect us and perhaps even transform us. At the same time, I was also exploring in my academic work the history of Christianity in the light of the Nag Hammadi discoveries, and this research helped clarify what I cannot love: the tendency to identify Christianity with a single authorized set of beliefs, however these actually vary from church to church, coupled with the conviction that Christian belief alone offers access to God. Mm-hmm. So she's saying, these things I cannot honor. And this is what has grown up in Christianity, A single authorized, of course it's different in this group, but a single authorized set of beliefs. I can't buy that. And I also can't buy the idea that God only loves Christians. So I'm not okay with that. But I know that there's something beautiful, something so beautiful that it heals my soul, even in the midst of a life of tragedy. So a little bit further on. Yeah. In the Gospel of Thomas, and what she thinks is happening in the first century is that there's actually kind of a shoot-'em-up match that's going on. She thinks that Thomas represents a very early form of Christianity, in which Jesus is a Jewish teacher who believes that we're all made in the image of God and that we can all become as he is. And the Gospel of Thomas begins with, in 3 different ways, it points out that Thomas is a twin. And she thinks that this is really meant to say, subtly, you are all my twins. Jesus saying to all of us, if you walk the way that I'm walking, if you walk in a way that's full of the Spirit, then you too will become what I am. You too will do what I do. So it's a pretty interesting thing, and this is the line that brought her the most. She says, if you bring forth what is within you, this is from the Gospel of Thomas, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. The strength of this saying is that it doesn't tell us what to believe, but it challenges us to discover what lies hidden within ourselves. And with a shock of recognition, I realized that this perspective seemed to me to be self-evidently true. She was surprised by the power of some of these ideas. Isn't it an interesting idea? So, an early form of Christianity, and she thinks, if you look at Matthew, Mark, and Luke, you see a Jesus that could be interpreted different ways. Jesus that could be more human. If you look at John, you see everything about John's gospel is trying to say divinity, 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 and the way forward is to believe in the divinity. That's what John's gospel even says that quite specifically. In Matthew, Mark, and Luke, when there's a miracle, it's called a dunamis, that's the word we get dynamite from.
Ooh, cool.
Dunamis. It's an act of power. But in John, it's a sign. It's a semeion. It's a sign. And the reason that it's a sign is because it's meant to show you who he is. In John, there are all the I am sayings. I am the light of the world. And of course, they correspond with what's going on in the narrative. I am the light of the world as a blind man receives his sight. I am the resurrection and the life as Lazarus comes back to life. I am the true bread that comes down of heaven as he feeds 5,000. So all these I am sayings are there, and they correspond with the narrative. And the most important one of all is in John 8, when Jesus says, they say to him, are you greater than our father Abraham? He goes, before Abraham was, I am, which is in your face. It's the great name from Exodus 3. It's I am. It's the name. It's I'm Yahweh. I am the one. I am the being one. And so they know what this means, and they pick up stones to kill him. But the other thing that's going on in John's gospel is that there's a beautiful interpretive principle, and it is some characters come to this belief easily, some characters come to this belief hard. The person who comes the most easily is Nathanael in chapter 1, because Jesus says, before Philip called you when you were under the fig tree, I saw you. And Nathanael goes, you're the Messiah, you're the Son of God. And Jesus goes, wow, you believe that this easily? And it gives a little trick. It says, because behold an Israelite indeed in whom there is no guile. Because there's no self-deception, because you don't try to be bigger than you are, because you are at peace with who you are, you come very easily. Philip has a little bit more trouble. Philip, later in the gospel, is going to be expressing doubt. Let's go with him, we'll too get killed. But Thomas is the one who comes hardest of all. And Elaine Pagels thinks this is because whoever wrote John is writing it specifically against Thomas's view. So Thomas is the one who comes out as the real doubter all the time, until the very end when he submits. And he's not, because in every other gospel, it says that after the resurrection, Jesus appears to the 11. Remember, Judas is gone, so now it's not 12. So Jesus appears to the 11. But in John's gospel, it says, and Thomas wasn't with them. But a week later, he shows up again, And now when he shows up, Jesus shows up as a resurrected Jesus in their midst. Thomas has been saying things like, I won't believe him unless I can put my finger in his side and put my finger in his wounds. And this time, Jesus says, give me some fish and I'll eat. And he begins, and Thomas sinks to his knees and says, my Lord and my God. And the most wonderful thing in a way is that, Jesus, well, it depends what you believe, but Jesus accepts this worship. He doesn't say, oh, no, you should only worship my Father. He goes, blessed are you because you've believed. So John's gospel is really clearly saying it's all about divine, it's all about divinity, it's all about divinity. And Elaine is going, yeah, but I don't know if I can live with this. And I think there were earlier forms of Christianity that thought different ways. And it seems like there's a kind of a shooting match in the first century about it, between them. So this has produced for me a life question. And the life question for me is because I think I'm kind of like Elaine, but I'm also kind of like John. I am really both. Here's the best way I've heard this recently. I was marking a paper for one of my graduate students, and she said this. She said, I am trying to swim in a bigger ocean, but the first sign of adversity, I go running back to the particularity of Christianity. Help me, Jesus. And that is the story of my life. I am trying to, I believe in a God who is bigger than Christianity. And I'm trying with all my heart to figure it all out. And yet, the first sign of trouble, oh Lord, help me, Jesus. So, and I honestly, I'm torn in these two places. So I'm looking to try to find the way to put them together. So let's put this one away and go to the other one. Yeah. So this is another set of notes. And I think I'll read this one page. There's one other thing I'd like, this is from my last video for my course. I had to do video lectures this term because of everything being online. There's one other thing I'd like to speak about in this video. Elaine Pagels at the beginning of our course this term posed a profound question. Which version of Christianity is closest to an original understanding? Is it the more exclusive demand in John's Gospel that we believe in Jesus as divine Son of God, or is it the inclusive sense that she found in the Gospel of Thomas, with Jesus as Jewish teacher showing us all how to participate with the divine in order to become our true selves? She writes, John says explicitly that he writes, so that you may believe, and believing may have life in Jesus' name. What John opposed, as we shall see, includes what the Gospel of Thomas teaches, that God's light shines not only in Jesus, but potentially at least in everyone. Thomas's Gospel encourages the hearer not so much to believe in Jesus, as John requires, as to seek to know God through one's own divinely given capacity. To seek to know God through one's own divinely given capacity, since all are created in the image of God. For Christians in later generations, the Gospel of John helped provide a foundation for a unified church, which Thomas, with its emphasis on each person's search for God, did not. Pagels gives additional explanation. For John, identifying Jesus with the light that came into being in the beginning is what makes him unique, God's only begotten Son. John calls him the light of all humanity and believes that Jesus alone brings divine light to a world otherwise sunk into darkness. John says that we can experience God only through the divine light embodied in Jesus. But certain passages in Thomas's Gospel draw a quite different conclusion, that the divine light Jesus embodied is shared by humanity since we're all made in the image of God. Thus, Thomas expresses what would become a central theme of Jewish and later Christian mysticism 1,000 years later, that the image of God is hidden within everyone, although most people remain unaware of its presence. In some of the recent weeks, I've been bringing ideas from Meister Eckhart, and I've been bringing ideas from Thomas Merton, which said this so clearly, that there's a part in the soul that every human has where God is. In fact, for Eckhart, God is the soul. And that's where our best ideas come from, that God speaks in this place inside of us, inside all of us, if we learn to listen. And if we could clear away the rubble, Merton says the shining would be so great, it would be greater than the sun. If we just brought all the humans together and cleared away the rubble out of their lives, and just let the sparkling, shining diamond of the image of God in each one of us be evident. So, yeah, in our course materials, we've seen this last idea quite clearly, particularly in the writings of Eckhart and Thomas Merton. I've wondered if there's a way to bring these opposing belief systems closer together. This is my life question. I've wondered if there's a way to bring these opposing belief systems closer together. What follows is one possible attempt. I'm going to look at various passages in the Gospel of John through a lens that's been influenced by the medieval mystics and by my own sense that Christian exclusivity seems out of touch with what we know of the life and teachings of Jesus from all sources. Okay, so what about you guys? I'm sorry, I've talked and talked. Do you have any ideas so far? Has it stirred anything in you? You see, it's kind of full in me. It just comes bubbling up. Yes.
I've just started reading. Thank you. I've just started reading. It's really old now, but Richard Rohr's Enneagram book, and so much of what you've just said really resonates with how the quote about our bringing out our gift or whatever it was called rather than keeping it in. Like he speaks about how the various different kind of archetypal sins within us that hold us back are actually our strongest gifts, and it's a matter of kind of flipping that. So anyway, it was really resonating with what I've been reading lately.
Oh, yeah, because what the Gospel of Thomas says that she was moved by was that if you bring forth what's within you, it will heal you. Yeah. And if you don't, it'll destroy you. Yeah, okay. What about others? That's a fantastic connection. Yeah. Yeah, Dave.
One of the things that stood out for me the last while is the early Eastern church's vision of the difference between image and likeness. That we all are made in the image of God, and that image is marred and a little bit varied, but all the good that you see is because we are made in the image of God, and it's more clear in some people than others. But then there's the likeness, that as we become conformed to Christ, we become more like Christ, and that image is even more clearly like Christ than it would have been. So I think that there's room there to say everybody can have some grace in their life because they're made in the image of God. But when you have the Spirit in your life, He can conform you to more to the likeness of Christ, which is different.
I love this, and I think it's true. And it's what I've been saying for some time is the great journey is from the image of God to the likeness of Christ. And I think you're right. And I think we can have the Spirit whether or not we are doing this verbally or believing the right thing. I think it has more to do with living the right way. I think if you're walking in the way that Jesus walked, I think you're walking along the flow of the river of God's love. And if you're doing that, then I think that God is participating with you. And whether, I don't know whether you need the same words for it or not, because I really don't think it's mostly about words. I think it's mostly about the heart. I think what God is looking for is hearts that are humble and compassionate and that walk in the way that Jesus walked. And as you do that, I see God's life sort of pouring out of God as a source, almost like a waterfall, and then flowing through Jesus, flowing through the Holy Spirit, and then flowing through all of us as we walk in the same direction. Yeah. So, what are your other thoughts?
That reminded me of C.S. Lewis.
C.S. Lewis.
Yeah, and his, I think, I'm not sure if it was the last book, and when I don't even remember who it was, who said, I'm not a Christian, so I can't go through.
Oh yeah, the guy whose name is Emmett, which is the Hebrew word for truth. Yeah, that guy is the guy who can't go through apparently, but he does. Yeah, perfect. In C.S. Lewis's children's stories, the Narnia Chronicles, The Last Battle. Yeah, Walt, and then Carol.
I'm going to try a long one that's probably complicated. So.
Oh, then take the mic. Come.
That might be the opposite of what we want.
I don't mind.
I'm just thinking of, how I loved Ian McGilchrist's book on the right brain and left brain. And when you were talking about the dilemma of the particular and the universal, one of the things I was thinking is, so it's we sometimes think of it the other way, but it's the right brain that does the particular well. So it's the right brain that meets an individual and knows an individual. And because the left brain wants to say, well, what category are you? Are you correct? All those kinds of things to force it into a universal. So I was thinking that something of that feels like it's at play in the battle
Between these
between the two. And I was thinking, because what the right brain wants to do is, in the beauty of the particular, I see the universal. Like the universal is there and exists in the beauty of the particular. Whereas the left brain wants to say, but is this the right particular? Is it accurate? You know, can I kill it and study it to the nth degree? You know, all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So if we can see all of that inclusive beauty as present in the particular Christianity, then maybe that's where one of the open doors.
Yeah, beautiful. Oh, come on, that's wow. Enneagram, right brain, left brain. Come on. Image, likeness. Woo!
Well, that makes sense too, because we're both. Right?
We're both.
We're both, and so, I'm pretty sure.
That's the thing is, I really believe that it's a gift to have divergent knowledge. You know, like Elaine Pagels, when I was sort of trained in a very conservative tradition, I didn't realize it till later, but in my tradition, we just don't, if somebody is involved in saying something that we don't like, we don't listen to them. We're just not the kind of people that listen to people that say things that are different than we think. You know, I didn't realize that. So I always thought I was pretty open-minded, but the truth is that she has something beautiful to say, and divergent knowledge can bring a gift. It may not be all of the truth, but it may bring a little part of the truth. And so to not be afraid of looking at a different idea may be a very valuable thing. And it may be that there's a way through to bring everything together. All you have to do is sort of corral Walter and get him to explain it.
So actually, we don't need to kill things or people.
Say it again, louder.
We don't really need to kill things or people.
We don't need to kill things or people.
That's right.
Radical idea. We don't need to kill things or people. Well, I've got to think about that. To me, it just, I mean, that seems just so out of whack. If somebody thinks differently, we kill them. So I think there is a way, and I think what I'd like to do is over the next few weeks show you what I've found in reading the Gospel of John with this question. And what I've tried to do is to bring together the ideas. And I've been looking at the Gospel. It actually felt, I think I started to do this a few years ago before even having this question so well articulated in my head, because I hadn't read Elaine Pagels yet. And so I started to think, okay, I know what the Gospel of John is doing. I know that it's presenting, you know, the most important thing is how you think or how you believe about Jesus. So my first way around it was just to say, well, the ancient meaning of believe is to live by. So I would just go, yeah, it's not about what you think you believe in your abstract propositions, it's how you live. So, and that still makes sense to me. But I've got a few other ways that I've been playing with, and I think the Gospel of John has become more alive to me than ever, spurred on by this question. So I want to show you over the next few weeks what I've been thinking about, and that's really all I want to say today. Is that, oh, Ian?
No, I just wanted to hear what Carol had to say.
Yeah.
Oh, Carol. Oh, sorry. Carol.
I didn't want to get missed.
Gee, thank you so much.
Yeah, it was kind of consistent with kind of. I can't if I can. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, kind of consistent with kind of what you had said about the image and the likeness. And if you come from a certain tradition, you've defined what likeness means. And I read a quote from someone, I forget who it was, he was British, I read it years ago. It said, the more we become like Christ, the more we become uniquely ourselves and not the same as everybody else. So,
Yeah, that's a beautiful one too. Come on. So I thought what we might do now is close the service with Zoe's worship song that anyone could sing.
It's actually kind of And so I wouldn't call it a worship song, but I can talk about that.
Oh, please come and talk about it. Say exactly what you would say.
Yeah.
And mine is kind of a worship song. So there. So I wrote my song on Friday when I thought about doing this talk. I just thought, oh, well then, because, we hadn't had live music here for a while, and then Tina and Janelle did music when Jess spoke. And it just meant so much. And then John did music, and it just meant so much to have live music. And then last week I did it, and it was beautiful. So I just thought, I like doing some of these videos. It's been nice, but there's something about the living thing too, and I didn't want to lose it. Anyway, so I just thought, wouldn't it be nice to just have something that went along with the sermon? So I wrote a little ditty for it.
And which one are we going to do that one first?
You talk about, what do you think?
Well, sure. I won't leave you on the edge of your seat any longer. But yeah, I had started writing a few, like a little collection of songs that were meant to be kind of inspired by Taizé style, but like very like simple words that are repetitive. But I call them spell songs, specifically looking for material that could be approached from any angle, like coming up to a fire. You can approach it from any side, and experimenting with what you can communicate without using an exclusive thought box, but to still share an emotion together, and share like a nurturing presence. Yeah. So I'm willing to accept my Genius Award. Anyone at home?
And I just think, so maybe really fun if for the next little while we just do this. We create little songs every week. So just if whichever one of you wants to do it next week, let me know.
Easy.
I think let's do mine first, then let's go to yours.
Perfect.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to change some of the words, so don't feel bad if you get them wrong. Because they changed at midnight. And it's very possible I won't remember them. So I came in this morning and went, oh no, I don't even know the melody. We are all makers because you're a maker. We all have meaning because you are. We have compassion because it's your nature. It's who you are. It's who you are. We are makers because you're a maker. We are all bright, shining stars. Our hearts grow tender to care for each other because you are. Because you are. And this longing can grow to be more than we know. For our hearts to be filled with love. And this longing can grow to be more than we know. For our hearts to become like yours. We are all makers because you're a maker. We all have meaning because you are. We have compassion because it's your nature. It's who you are. It's who shining stars. Our hearts grow tender to care for each other because you are. Because you are. And this longing can grow to be more than we know. For our hearts to be filled with love. And this longing can grow to be more than we know. For our hearts to become like yours. We are makers because you're a maker. We all are bright, shining stars. Our hearts grow tender to care for each other because you are. Because you are. Zoe has shown me the beauty of the idea of the word maker. You know, that we're, and when we make things, when we garden, when we cook, when we sew, it's so beautiful. So that's why I wanted to sing that. Yeah. And then let's try and do yours.
Yeah, let's try. One of the two so far.
One, two.
I call.
Maybe you should call again. I have trouble with melodies.
I call the blue sky
To rest on your shoulders, I call the blue sky to wrap right around you. I call the blue sky to wrap around your shoulders. I call the blue sky to wrap right around you. I call the sunset to wrap around your shoulders. And I call the sunset to wrap right around you. I call the moonlight to wrap around your shoulders. I call the moonlight to wrap right around you. I call the sunrise to wrap around your shoulders. And I call the sunrise to wrap right round you. Blue sky to wrap around you. I call the blue sky to wrap around your shoulders. And I call the blue sky to wrap right around you. think that's everything we got for today, unless anybody has anything they want to say. Yeah, Pete. Oh! Yeah. Forgot to pray. Forgot to pray for Eric. Eric's been in the hospital in Bangor. He's got trouble with his liver. And so let's hold him up. Lord, you know all the people that we love that are wrestling with disease and or difficult circumstances. And pray especially for Eric today. We really ask for a gift that Eric can be dealt with very beautifully by the doctors, but that your presence and your spirit would be bringing healing to his body, and that you would bring him home safe and sound. And also, when I say bring him home safe and sound, I continue to think about Audrey, about Zoe's kitten, Zoe's cat that's been missing now for a week. We asked for a gift there. Yeah. And we just so grateful for so many beautiful things, so many for Megan, for babies that have been born recently, for care that's being given to them in beautiful ways. But we also, are mindful of Kathy and of others that are wrestling with disease, and we ask that you would just bring healing and grace and kindness and peace and good sleep to each one of them, all the people in our hearts. Thank you. Anybody else have anything that they want to say? Yeah.
There was 2 little boys in Massachusetts, I heard on the news this morning, that were drowned in a park swimming.
Oh, come on.
And they were drowned in 10 to 12 foot of water.
Wow. So no one would have expected it.
They was on the news this morning.
Yeah. So Lord, be with their parents too, be with their families and their loved ones and their friends. Yeah. It's the ritual, isn't it? Like Elaine's really nailed that part. It's like coming into the doorway and realizing that there's a river of feelings that have been going on forever, and God is somehow in it, and our souls can be transformed as we. I mean, that's not the only way that our souls get transformed, but our souls can be transformed as we take part in this river of life together. Probably the best way that it happens is together. Okay, yeah. So have a rich week. Goodbye.